My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of I Think You Should Leave Seasons 1 and 2. Now, this is a skit comedy show, so I don't know how to talk about it without spoiling certain segments. So, if you haven't seen it, you can still watch this review. It's skit comedy. I'll be talking about specific skits. You can't spoil any plot twists, but I will be going in depth, so there's your warning. And I'm just going to be honest, I don't really know how to review a skit comedy thing. Like, I watched 2 seasons, each 6 episodes, about 15 minutes long, with a bunch of different skits within, and I'm not going to talk about each and every skit. So I just have a list of skits that I'm going to talk about, just so I don't talk about every single one. I will say one huge positive for this show is that it's only 15-minute long episodes. Like, it's a very easy to watch show. Also, I love the style of this show. Between each skit, there's an old-fashioned song that just is a really catchy song, and it just gives the show some nice style to it. And I do think Tim Robinson has some great comedic talent. I think he has a lot of potential as an actor. Because, spoiler alert, I'm not a fan of this show. And I think what it goes down to is the writing. The writing is really bad in this show. And I looked up Tim Robinson, and I guess he's a writer on SNL, which, not to be mean, explains a lot. I think the guy's talented in front of the camera, but he definitely needs to restrain himself when he's writing a script. But let's talk about some skits that I did like. The very first one in the entire show I thought was hilarious. This guy's at a job interview and they're at some kind of cafe, and he tries to pull the door, but instead it's a push door to get out. And the guy's just like, oh no, you gotta push it. And the guy's like, no, I've been here before. You have to pull it. So then he just keeps pulling it to the point where he completely breaks the door and just walks out that way. That was a really funny skit. And even the next one where some guys go to his place to invest some termites, and they just like hide out in the bathroom. They're just running around the house. And I just thought that one wasn't hilarious, but I thought it was pretty funny. There's one where this one is my favorite one in the entire show. Even though it goes on for 10 seconds too long, this was a one to crack me up. And it's this guy's opening all these gifts, and Tim Robinson got him a Reese, and he's just like, do you like it? He goes like, yeah. And he's just like, well then give me back the receipt. What? Well, if you like it so much, you don't need the receipt anymore, so give it back. He goes like, okay, fine, I'll give it back. And then he keeps opening the gifts, and then he's just like, well, I guess you wouldn't mind if I swallow the receipt. And then it just gets more and more ludicrous. And what this one does so greatly is, I feel like this one was written by a different guy, because this one leans into the absurd and has fun with it compared to some other ones. Because then some of his other friends are just like, oh yeah, well, maybe I should eat my receipt too or whatever. And it just gets really ludicrous and over the top, and soon the one normal guy in the entire room looks like the crazy one because everyone else is acting so crazy. And I just love watching that escalate. Now, the last 10 seconds where Tim Robinson's character dies was a bit too much, but the rest of the skit was absolutely hilarious. There's one where this guy puts a whoopee cushion on this other guy's chair, and the guy sits on it, and everyone's laughing, and he goes like, oh. And the guy just doesn't get the joke, and they explain it to him, and that one's pretty funny. Another great one is when he's on the airplane, and this old guy sits next to him, and he's just like, oh, 30 years ago, there was a baby crying on this plane who wouldn't shut up and ruined my entire life. And now I've come to get revenge. And I thought that was really funny and over the top. When the show leans into its over the topness, that's when it's at its best. I also thought the one where the magician humiliates the husband and makes him look stupid, and then the husband goes home and the wife is just mad at him. He made you look like a fool. So then the guy goes back and he just doesn't fall for the same tricks. I thought that was really funny. Okay, the one where the guy's at the restaurant with the girl and she's eating all the nachos, and then he goes to the guy and he's just like, hey, can you tell her it's a rule that you can't eat all the nachos? So then he goes back, the guy goes forward, and what they did wrong here is I thought the premise up until this point was really funny, but then the girlfriend's just like, you just went up there and got him to do it, didn't you? And like I said, it didn't lean into that absurdity. Like, the waiter guy should have been the one normal guy, and everyone else been crazy. And I wish they went more with it with that one, but the first bit of it was really funny. There was one episode, one skit, where this guy's driving and he sees a little bumper sticker that says, "Honk if you're horny," so then he follows him around and keeps honking. That was hilarious. But then it goes on a bit too long because the guy's at a funeral and he's still honking, and they should have ended it there, but then he goes over to him and I don't know, it just goes in this really stupid direction that I didn't find funny. And then there's another one where they're at the store and there's a hot dog vehicle that crashes through, and they're just like, "Who did this?" And then there's one guy dressed like a hot dog, and he's just like, "Who could have done that?" And I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And then everyone's just like, "Well, it's clearly you." And I'm just like, that's not funny. If they're just like, "Okay, well, we gotta figure out who did this. Which one of us could it have been?" And they just leaned into that, that would have been more funny. Yeah, the rest was pretty much not funny. The second half of the fourth season was dreadful. The last 4 episodes of season 2 didn't make me laugh once. Yeah, like there's one episode, one skit where this guy's out for dinner with a couple of his friends and the teacher is just like, "Oh wow, your meal looks really good," and then he just ends up eating it all. And I feel like you had a funny premise there, but just the execution was bad. There's an episode where this guy got a bit of piss on his pants, and the guy's just like, "Oh, you shaked a little too much or whatever," and the guy's just like, "Oh no, that's in style. It's this new style of pants," and that was funny. But then they kept it going for way too long, and that's just a similar theme. These jokes go on for way too long to the point where they stop being funny. The hot dog vehicle was such a funny idea, and then they just kept it going, and they just didn't lean into the absurd. When they did was when it was at its best. There was a Baby of the Year award one, which was dreadfully unfunny. These girls hanging out, posting pictures with rude captions that was really one note and not funny. These motorcyclists who were aliens, not funny. PC Tuggle, not funny. Dog humping, not funny. Scrooge joke with like the giant robot thing, cringe-worthy. Photocopier jokes, yeah, not funny. Hung like a horse, not funny. They even got Andy Samberg for one. It's like they're on a game show and this guy keeps messing up, and then this big teddy bear comes out and they're like, "What's he gonna do?" And no one knows, and that was it. I'm like, you get someone as funny as Andy Samberg and you deliver that lame of a joke? How pathetic. There's one involving Jim Davis. That wasn't funny at all. There's one where this guy dresses up like this guy named Carl Havoc to wreak havoc in the mall, and my goodness, like, it just went nowhere. I felt that you could have done like some kind of Borat-like skit there, but no, they just didn't deliver. There's one with Bob Odenkirk that's not funny. Shark's Den one that's not funny. Like, it's a skit comedy show. I don't know what else to say. I can say this one's funny. I can say that one's not funny. There's a bunch I didn't mention, but for the most part, lots of them did not work for me. You can see the talent in front of the camera. Like I said, Tim Robinson has great comedic timing. The guy is funny. He just needs better material to work with. I love the style of this show, and it does have its funny moments. That one where everyone's eating the receipt is what this show should have been. The epitome of what it should have been. But for the most part, they don't lean into the absurd. They just have one guy looking like a fool. They go way, way, way too over the top with some skits. They just go on for too long. I just thought for the most part that I didn't laugh. I didn't think this show was funny. So I'm going to go ahead and give I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson a 3 out of 10. I know that seems pretty low, but when it's skit comedy and you don't laugh, I don't see how you can go much higher than that. But anyways, have you seen I Think You Should Leave as Tim Robinson? What did you think about it? What was your favorite skit? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon. And Gavin, out. I think you should leave now.